Welcome back. This is Hot Takes and Deep Dives. You guys know me, Jess, and I am here with one of my favorite returning guests, Lara Marie Schoenhals from Sexy Unique Podcast. She's my girl. She's one of my faves. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. You know, we're here to really break down the firings, you know, just the burning to the ground of Vanderpump Rules, but specifically question number one, right out of the gate.
Yeah.
What was your reaction? How did you find out that Stassi and Kristen were fired?
I was actually recording an episode of my podcast called Tough Sicilian Bitches that I do with Carrie O'Donnell, under the Sexy Unique Podcast umbrella. So we were recording our episode, actually talking about systemic racism and what had just been going on in our country, and kind of talking about, literally, I think I was saying, I'm down to dismantle white supremacy, burn it all to the ground, when I got a series of text messages, a flurry of texts from everyone that knows me, who knows that I would care deeply about the firings of Stassi and Kristen. And I found out live. We both found out live as we were recording. And I mean, I get chills just thinking about that, because it was really shocking. I would never have guessed that Bravo would. I could see Kristen getting fired because I feel like she's always been fringe.
Yeah.
Lisa, we all know Lisa's been looking for a reason to let her go for years. Yeah. But to see them bring the axe down on their princess that's been groomed by the network for years and is essentially was being geared up to be the next Bethany.
Yeah.
Was that's a big statement to make.
You know, I wasn't recording anything, but I was just telling you, I spent the past couple of days out on Fire Island, which is a very remote community, little island off the coast of Long Island. Nothing but gay guys. Oh, in fact, I ran into Ben Rimmelauer was there, who is Luann's cabaret director. He was there.
Amazing. Yeah, that tracks.
Totally tracks. So that was really fun. And then I'm just hanging out with my friend, and I see it on Twitter, and it stopped me cold in my tracks.
Yeah.
I was truly shocked. Truly, nothing has been. What has been this shocking in terms of a reality show shakeup? What has been?
Nothing has really gone down like this. People have left shows, but I can't think of a firing that's really I
mean, Leanne Locken, we all knew. It's that had been a season long.
Yeah.
You know.
That's a little different.
I was trying to think of something that's as comparable to this. Actually, okay. Well, this is different because it's a firing and will possibly end the show. But I think the last thing that literally stopped me cold in my tracks was when the news hit that Luann had been arrested.
Yeah, that was a shock. But then that didn't even get her fired. I mean,
No, I'm not talking about. I'm just talking about the actual
shocking
the emotion that was elicited.
The emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. And I'm trying to think even of a firing or someone leaving a show that left me shocked. And I really think
Bethany leaving this fall sent me into a spiral of depression, but she's still alive. She's still around.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You can still check in with her. She's going to have her own other show happening. Bethany's still very much accessible. I don't know where exactly Stassi goes from here.
No, so I want to talk to you about this. So
yeah.
Well, let's kind of go through their experience, because I want to get to. I have a couple of thoughts of where Stassi goes.
Yeah.
First of all, how do you think Stassi and Kristen each got the news?
I think that when all this shit was coming to light, because with Stassi, it's been a long time coming for her to get held accountable for her racist words and actions. So when all this kind of resurfaced at the beginning, I'm going to just take it back to when everything started coming back to light about the Faith stuff. I remember seeing I remember seeing the tweets, like, and them inferring that Faith was this woman that had been stealing and like robbing people and drugging people, and just being like, wow, that's like pretty bold claims to make. But like,
guys, if you aren't like totally caught up, essentially Kristen and Stassi, they called the cops on Faith. They saw somebody, I think there was some news story circulating that there was some black woman who was stealing, and some woman was doing something.
She was allegedly, I guess, drugging and robbing people and stealing property, there was like camera footage of her stealing something out of a car. I'm not really super clear, but it was as the show was airing in season 6 of Vanderpump Rules, when it was revealed that Faith and Jax had slept together. During that season, Kristen tweeted about, like, she tweeted the picture of this woman and was basically saying like, this is Faith. And I was like, wow, like,
so fucking insane.
Which is insane. And also I was like, I mean, at the time I was like, if it is Faith, like, we have no choice but to stand. Like, I love, like, just like a full criminal on the loose. Like, I'm in, like, no bad judgments on my part. I was like, yes, like, like, she will stop at nothing. Like, I'm in.
Totally, like Hustlers, like J-Lo, like the Ring. Yeah.
I was like, the story gets richer and better. Yeah. Like, never stop her, never catch her. And then Jax was tweeting about it too. And then I guess Stassi had gone on a bunch of podcasts saying, like, we called the cops on her. Like, we all got together.
Fully admitting, which is like the worst thing you can do, is to have your voice admitting guilt for a crime that you made. I mean, is this a crime to like falsely accuse?
I don't know. I don't know if it's like defamation or, well, I mean, at this point, I have no idea. But I remember seeing this when it came out. And then obviously, like, recently, I mean, Stassi's things have been brought up every once in a while about her making racist statements on her podcast or going on.
I just said on my most recent episode, I was saying to Ryan Bailey how I remember there was an episode, I dip in and out of Stassi's podcast, which we're going to talk about the future of her podcast in a sec. But I remember she said, it was during like Oscars So White a couple of years ago. She said, why does everything have to be about race? Mm-hmm. You know, and also the whole La La Land versus Moonlight thing at the Oscars. I don't remember if that was the same year. Maybe it was something different.
Yeah, that was the same year.
She, had a lot to say about that. There have been a lot of things like percolating under the surface, but none of it really had fully come to light.
Yeah, it seemed that none of it had staying power or got like explained away, or it was just like, it was never treated as like a big deal by anyone, and including like her bosses at Bravo, essentially. So then when all of this bubbles back up to the surface, obviously during a time where, like, as a country, we're going through a ton of racial turmoil, it's interesting because obviously Bravo's trying to make a very clear statement by doing this. And to me, it reads as more reactive than like proactive on their part. Like, it seems more like, like, we don't want to look really bad and all this, or we don't want to have to take a lot of accountability. So like, we're just going to fire these girls. We're going to figure out what to do, fire these girls. And then at least like, the heat's off of us for a while and it's on to them. So they seem to me, while they do deserve consequences for their actions, it does also feel like they're kind of being treated as sacrificial lambs in a way.
It's complicated. Like, I'm conflicted, and it's complicated because now Bravo has set the bar that this behavior is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Which means they now need to hold everybody to this standard. And they're not. I mean, unless Jax has been fired in the last 20 minutes, they haven't fired him yet.
They haven't fired Jax and Brittany. Like, it's like, okay, then are you going to go through? Because this is not like, it's not like they even said this stuff on the show. Mm-hmm. They said it, like, this is stuff that they did in their personal lives, that they're off camera, that they're now being held accountable for. So, like, is that going to be across all platforms, shows on Bravo? is that going to be what you hold people accountable to? And like, what about the people that have done racist stuff on camera? Like, are you going to retroactively go back, fire them, and punish them too? It just is like, it's muddy waters. And I don't mean to be like, I'm by no means making an excuse for Kristen and Stassi. Like, the cards fell where they fell, and like, I think what happened, and I agree. But like, as viewers, reality TV as a genre celebrates bad behavior in people. Like, that is what makes it fun to watch. So when you start holding people that you know are trash accountable for being trash,
what's left?
Yeah. Were you surprised that Stassi did this? Like, was that shocking to you that Stassi like had done the things that she had done?
That she had done it.
Or like that Kristen did?
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I am surprised because it's a wild story. It's out there. The whole thing is kind of yeah, I'm not going to sit and pretend like, oh yeah, like Stassi's totally the type of person. Like, I can't say that I like, oh yeah, I saw that coming. Like, no, I didn't see it coming.
Really? To me, it didn't, like, after watching all these people and kind of talking about them and really like picking apart their personalities, I was like, it doesn't, nothing they do really surprises me at this point. I'm like, yeah, like, what did you expect? Like, that Stassi, like, the literal definition of like a privileged white girl who's like, I don't know. I feel like I would be interested to know how Bravo handled all of this and like what the inner workings were as this story was coming to light, because I don't think we're getting the full picture. Like, I'm sure there are like gag orders placed on stars once you get into a scandal, what you're allowed to say on social media, what you're not allowed to say, who you're allowed to be talking to. So I don't think it's safe to just assume that like what you see is what you get in the way that everything shook out after all the.
How do you think each of them reacted to the phone call?
Oh, I mean, I think that I feel like Stassi, like I could feel, I swear to God, in the air in LA, I felt like the energy of Stassi losing it all that day. I was like, she must have had the worst day of her life. Can you imagine the worst couple days where every single thing, like, there was no person who set out with the intention that 2020 was going to be their year more than Stassi Schroeder.
Yeah.
Like, began this year with like an Italian wedding in the fall that was going to be paid for, sponsored, filmed by Bravo.
2 sold out tours.
Like,
It's got a second book deal.
And the tours alone, like the revenue that can be generated from that and just the sheer amount of dates that she was doing, like, it's like, that is like a huge deal. Hit podcast with tons of different sponsors, like about to like go probably sign for like a 9th season of Vanderpump Rules where her wedding would be like featured, if not like signing for a spinoff about getting ready for the wedding. Like, truly, I have chills thinking about like all the things that were keyed up for this woman that literally one by one got canceled. And like, that has just got to really, really, really suck.
Yeah, it's like, on one hand, I have sympathy for that. You know, that's it's terrible what she's going through. Like, I feel bad, but she did do all of these things, particularly the calling the cops.
She brought it on herself. Yeah, she brought it on herself.
Where like you're involving the police and you're wrongfully accusing somebody, like, that is
you're
just
wrongfully accusing
an
someone.
Insane thing to do.
Yeah, you're putting them in a potential or attempting to put them in a potential situation that could lead to their harm. But then beyond that, you're like gleefully recounting this story as though it's the funniest thing you've ever been through without like.
Have they talked about, like, were they just like wasted? Was it meant to be a prank? Was it fully like premeditated and intentional? Or were
I think that they were like, oh my God, like, we've solved this crime. And like, this girl who we hate because she slept with our friend's man, which also, it's like, all of this is in service of like
Jax.
Jax and Brittany's relationship. It's just like fucking insane. Like you should actually just be canceled for that. Like you really need to cut ties with this like truly repellent human being, Jax Taylor. But it's like so misguided without any sort of inkling or acknowledgement of like how misguided it is. Like if she, I believe if she was to have spoken about it in a way where there was like self-awareness or being like, this was so fucked up. Like I can't believe that I did this, and like contextualize it in a way that's like, I get it. Like that was like I was in the wrong, like retelling that story. And I feel for her because I've been there too, like telling stories where obviously my privilege is so apparent and I'm not acknowledging it in the situation. I've never called the cops on a Black woman, but probably as white people, we get into those situations a lot without having like fully awareness and acknowledgement of our privilege in a situation. But I mean, she walked herself into this problem. It's all consequences of her own action. So at the end of the day, like, it is what it is.
As far as Kristen, do you think she was just, suck a dick, fuck you, and just kind of like, I mean, granted, although here's the thing, her book came out last week. So
yeah,
her publishing company, I think, cut ties with her. In addition to Stassi's publicist and agent, they dropped her. I mean, she really lost everything, but she had a lot more to lose.
Does she still have her book deal?
Stassi?
Her second book deal? I mean, I haven't heard much about that.
I don't know.
Because the thing is with Stassi, even if she loses everything, she still has a huge audience. And she still has probably the most fans of any female cast member of the show.
I checked a little while ago, or earlier today, she still has over 2 million followers. Like I don't think it's made a dent in her following.
I think if anything, controversy such as this breeds like rabid loyalty. So if you're like a diehard Stassi stan, like check yourself into Bellevue, but also
yeah.
I'm performing a citizen's arrest on you, but also like you're going to like ride or die for your queen. So whatever she does next, like the fans will follow. So that's why like long term, I'm not worried about her bouncing back really. Like maybe there will be a scramble to like figure out how, but it's like she could just go. I mean, she could get on Patreon, independently podcast, and then
her podcast company, whatever platform she worked for, I think it was like radio.com, they pulled the podcast off of every platform. You can't even find it right now.
But do you think they're just scrubbing it like from their back end? Because that's her podcast. I mean, anyone can podcast independently, and she was with a different company before she was with radio.com. I think the first round of racist it was when she put the Me Too episode out where she was like, are we on a male witch hunt?
Yes.
That's when she got kicked off, lost all her sponsors, got kicked off. It's like you would think you would learn from these things, but again, like I guess it takes a lot to learn from that. But like I think she could podcast independently. Like I feel like that alone could be a vehicle for her to like bounce back. For Kristen, it seems a little bit more up in the air as far as like where she can go from here.
I don't think we'll ever hear from Kristen again.
And I think that would be the best case scenario for Kristen.
Actually, she did have something to lose, which was that her book, which she co-wrote with the woman who I think wrote How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, I think it was being optioned to be turned into a series. That is a huge thing to potentially lose. That's the biggest thing. But also, well, aside from like their salaries, you were saying on your show that Stassi was at $500K a season.
I had heard, not ever confirmed, that the higher tier OGs were making up to like $500K a season.
So that's a huge salary. I think her two big sources of income were the show and the podcast.
The show and the podcast, and probably if she was to be the kind of writer that could get a book deal every year or two, that's probably a good chunk of change. She can probably get up to like $500K per book deal.
how long do you think it'll be before? I mean, she's going to have to make some sort of acknowledgement video, some sort of message to her fans. I know she wrote the apology to Faith, but she's going to have to. Right now, she's in hiding, essentially, just like off of social media. She's going to have to come out.
The thing is, she's always wanted to be famous. Like she's been courting reality show fame for years and years, like previous to Vanderpump Rules. I want to see like what happens. Like now we're kind of all like, I think it just propels her fame even more. Like this grand cancellation, like it all works. It's not like she's done for good.
It feeds on
itself. Yeah. In her case specifically, I don't think it does the same for Kristen, but I feel like that's kind of been the total cycle with Kristen from the dawn of Vanderpump Rules. Like she never comes out looking good. And it's all very much, she walks herself into this as well. But like the chips never fall in her favor. So like the best thing she can do for her own mental health and like well-being is to like completely disengage and like start afresh somewhere else, like out of the public eye. I think for someone like Stassi, and I think she's pretty savvy at this point, like while this could feel like a devastating blow for a while, like
actually could be an opportunity.
Huge opportunity. You can't ask, in the long run, you cannot ask for better press than this. I mean, if you're really going to get into like the no press is bad press, like media machine, imagine she's going to get so much coverage. And that's, I think, what people don't understand is like, the grand cancellation of Stassi sucks us in more than it repels us from her. And we're also part of the problem and somewhat complicit for like following along.
You know where I can see her coming back?
Where?
Picture this. 2 years from now, panelist, co-host on The View.
Oh, totally. She could do a co-host. Yeah, that's interesting.
Right?
It is even possible that Bravo brings her back eventually.
That I don't see.
Really?
Yeah, no, because no, I don't see that because they're all about holding everything accountable. Whereas on The View, it's a fucking free for all. They're all saying wild racist shit all the time on The View. It's part of it's a news. It's purely opinion based. In a way that Bravo is not. Bravo is just reality. If she pivots into something like The View or The Talk or whatever it's going to be, I mean, I personally hope it's The View. Can you imagine her going toe-to-toe with like Whoopi or Joy Behar or, gosh, I wish Michelle Collins were still on that show. She would eat her alive.
I know.
But I can really see it.
I see where you're coming from. That's interesting. I was hoping that you weren't going to be like Fox News because I feel like everyone's saying that. And I'm like, that's not like, no. But, and don't you think it's interesting also that it's like, this is what everyone's talking about too? Like it does feel in the long run, like cool, Bravo's taken a stance, but at the same time, it's such a distraction from what is like really going on that needs attention and like action.
If we're going down the thread, I want to continue down the thread of this actually being, we're sort of like in spin mode. It's almost like we're playing like a little bit of like Olivia Pope here, like trying to like fix the situation. Or at least just like spin it into like a positive, which I actually hadn't even got there yet in my head until we started recording this, until you put this in my head that no, actually this is a good thing. So,
well, it's just, I'm kind of, because the news is so fresh. So I'm still in like a processing and thinking about it mode. So like every day it's like a new facet to think about. And like on day 3 after post firing, I'm like, as an independent creator, I feel like you're constantly, and you probably know this too, you're constantly navigating like shifts or you have to like figure something out or like reroute or whatever. So my brain goes there as far as that.
If we're furthering down the road that this is a positive thing for Stassi, think about it. Vanderpump Rules was already in crisis before this because who knew, they were already going to have to do all these, they were going to need to figure something out, because this season was so poorly received and kind of a mess.
And there was 2 seasons in a row now where it went from being like everyone is obsessed with this show, it's so fucking good, to being like this show's garbage.
Right. So if we continue down that line, realistically, how much longer was Vanderpump going to keep going anyhow? Suppose they get one more season. I almost feel like this sped up the train of the show ending. Listen, the show may go on, but it sped up the train of Stassi needing to figure out her next move.
Yeah.
In a way, it may be like a blessing in disguise that, okay, I don't need to cling to this Vanderpump Rules, this ensemble of fucking 20 people. Now I can like, listen, I'm not trying to like make her into like some hero. Like I really
by
don't.
No means.
By no means. She's like clearly mentally, she's got some interesting thoughts in her head. And she's willing to like do some insane actions. But just looking at it just from like a purely like the career of a woman who became a reality star, a huge one with a huge following, just like where they go from here, it really could be a blessing in disguise, because Vanderpump could die at any moment, really.
Yeah. And obviously she was one of the people that had the most engaged fan base on the show. So I don't know. I hope in the end, like I was saying before, like that this does become like a positive learning experience for her, that she like really considers her actions before she does something like totally racist or hurtful to another person, and like considers the power of her words, and like like I don't have a lot of worries for her about bouncing back, just because I feel like her fan base wants it, like it'll happen. You know what I mean?
Let's talk about Beau.
Yeah. That, I think, is a very interesting part of it, that I feel like, and I hope that relationship runs its course, and hopefully this allows that relationship to run its course.
I mean, don't you think that he must be freaking the hell out?
Yeah.
I mean, because think about it. The relationship was made for TV from the jump. Like it was to me very similar to Bethany and Jason Hoppy. It's following the exact same trajectory. They were probably going to get a spinoff, whatever. So they're obviously definitely not getting married in Italy in October. Just that wasn't going to happen.
No.
That wasn't happening anyway. So
yeah, that was off the table first and foremost.
The questions are really, will they stay together? And if not, how long till they break up? Beau, like you were saying, he cares so much about being well received and his image. And he's now hitched his wagon to Stassi, and she blew the image up. Yeah,
I don't think that they'll make it down the aisle, because also like he hitched his wagon to Stassi. Like that was his career was happening in tandem with hers. So like once hers stops, his stops. So I don't think that he was like ready for that.
He quit his job as a commercial casting agent or whatever a while ago, a year or two ago. I think most of the money he was making he was clearly getting paid for doing her podcast. He really was like her main co-host. And
getting paid to do her podcast and going on tour with her. So like all his paycheck is dependent on hers. So I just feel like that has to be something that you talk about. Like, how do you work that out? That's an uncomfortable conversation to have. But like, I think also I've never liked Beau. I don't think that Stassi and him are really a good long-term match. Like, I think that she would be happier long-term to find someone whose success isn't dependent on her success. That like really respects her, has like their own thing going on. There's not a need to dovetail. And like, I think part of the Beau conversation was like, look, I found like a nice guy. Like it's like, it's so convenient for furthering like this narrative of Stassi's love life. But if you really kind of looked, I don't think Beau is as nice of a guy as like he was being painted out to be. I don't know. I think it's better for her to not have a relationship, and better for anyone not to have a relationship so tied up and married to like your career and finances.
Totally. In fact, I like got into like a little fight about this with this is funny. I was interviewing Patty Stanger last week. Literally, I was talking to her about Stassi and Beau, and she was like, she pushed way back on me, and she's like, no, she's like, listen, behind every celebrity, she's like, look at Suzanne Summers. Behind every celebrity, there's the man that's running the show. I'm like, you're missing the point. Beau is a Jason Hoppy, who was like
that's running the show.
Yeah. No,
I love that take.
It was insane. It was insane. And what's so funny? She was one of the first people I thought, I was like, damn, I wish I had gotten Patty this week. Be like, so, because she also is delusional in her mind, thinking that, like, in the interview, she's like, yeah, I'm close with Stassi, and I flat out asked her, oh, like, have you spent much time with Beau? She says, no, I've never met him.
Yeah,
she's just
not
like
that close, honey.
Delusional. But
yeah, I think a man that's running the show, like, it's not like Beau's her manager, though. Perhaps now she's in need of representation. It's a real opportunity for him. I mean, I'm interested to see how it all shakes out. And I wonder how many people are truly drawing a line in the sand of like I see a lot of rage and stuff directed towards Stassi, or like vitriol, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also like, okay, how many of you people that you're like celebrating, like ding dong, the witch is dead, you're going to tell me you're never going to click on another news item of Stassi Schroeder ever again? Like, you're totally disengaged from this point. Like, I can't even make that kind of commitment at this point. You know what I mean? Like, right. And I see and I understand that what a problematic stance that is to take, but I'm just saying, like, I'm going to call out my own hypocrisy here. Like, I'm intrigued. I'm engaged by the story. Like, I want to see where it goes, where it ends. And I think that's part of the grander problem of all of this, and like cancel culture, and like, I think it breeds more engagement in problematic things than it exempts.
Totally. There's no such thing. Yeah. There's no such thing as cancel culture. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. Nobody has ever name a celebrity who was wiped from society. Okay, maybe I can. Okay, like a Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, but that's less like cancel culture and more just like legally you were found to be like a rapist, so you went to jail. Like, I'm
trying to think of a celebrity who did such insane things that they were truly like run out of Hollywood.
Like Mel Gibson for a while, but he's like fine now.
Yeah. Oh, he'll win an Oscar next year.
Yeah, like
he has won
Robert
Oscars.
Downey Jr. He went. Look at him.
Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of different for women. Like if you think of like Lindsay Lohan or someone who lives like a sad life, but even she is like found whatever her journey happens to be in like the Middle East. So I think that even she is like, and we still engage and we still want to see like what she's up to, even if she's like a really TBD person. So no one aside from Doute, who I do think could actively get like fully canceled. I don't know. Cancel culture. Yeah, no, but I'm with you on that.
Like, it's just so stupid. It's so lazy. They're canceled. I've never heard that. It's the laziest expression. There's no meaning. It's just
there's no real long-term consequences behind it, because it is more of like, it's more of a reactionary performative. It's part of the grand performance. You get canceled and then you bounce back from being canceled, and like the cycle continues.
It's the oldest story in Hollywood. Look at Britney Spears. Look, when she had the wedding in Vegas, they weren't calling it cancel culture, but it was like, oh, what a fucking idiot. She came back and had a huge. It's all about the rise and the fall,
and people love to do it with females. I think it's way more exciting to watch when it's happening to a woman more than a man. And I think that that's also where this kind of falls into like a complicated area. Like, why I would love to see men be held just as accountable as women right now. So hopefully that's like the trajectory of what's going to happen. I just think historically it isn't what happens. People love to come for women in these situations. Yeah. And white women, I get it. Like, white women have been historically like racist co-aggressors. and deserve for that to be called out, and we should like speak the truth on that. But in this instance, it does seem like perhaps a disproportionate amount of like hate and cancellation is being proclaimed on these women who like they're cast members of Vanderpump Rules. Like this is not like
by definition they're fucking assholes.
Yeah, like this is not like the culmination of, oh my God, the great awakening and like now we've really done it. It's like you literally just like outed some people that we all knew were garbage to begin with. So like let's like not pat ourselves on the back too much.
I want to talk about the friendships between, like Stassi, Kristen, and Katie. Let's get into the witches of WeHo. So do you think a few things come to mind? Number one, do you think Kristen just started like psychodialing Stassi when this happened?
I'm sure she's like spinning out. I mean, she doesn't seem to have very many like healthy coping mechanisms in the first place. So I feel if anything like this, I feel like this will break them further apart because now they're inextricably linked. I think it was Ryan Bailey who was like, how pissed do you think Stassi is that now, like, even though she hates Kristen so much, has been trying to like separate herself from her, their names are now linked forever in history.
I mean, I guess just psychologically or just like emotionally, it really could go either way. It'll either, because two people who are going through a horrible experience, it can either bring them closer together, or yes, they were already on bad terms. It could just rip them further apart.
Yeah, I think this fractures it further. I don't see a world in which like either of them are like, wow, at least we have each other to lean on. It's like, wow, we both held hands and hopped down this like yellow brick road of terrorism together. So like we need to just I'm putting myself in either of their shoes. I'd be like, I fucking hate you. You've ruined my life.
Oh my God. I mean, who would have get like Katie Maloney coming out smelling like a rose?
I know, literally our do nothing queen really rose to the top of the totem pole by just knitting.
By doing nothing.
By just like vaping and knitting. Yeah.
Okay, something that I really want to talk about is Lisa Vanderpump. So the statement she put out this week, the statement she put out was ludicrous because she was basically saying that like I recently found out XYZ. Lisa Vanderpump knows everything that goes on. It's actually what the entire show is based around, is the fact that she gets fed every little piece of information. So now that she's playing dumb, it's very transparent and it's a really bad look. I do wonder if she's kind of shitting a brick because the show could go away, and then where does she, I was actually, when I was talking to Ryan the other day, I was basically like, okay, like let's forecast the return of LVP to House. I mean, the only place she has to go is back to Housewives if Vanderpump Rules goes away.
She's unnecessary on Housewives at this point. Like she would actually be bringing it down a level. Like I'm fine. I have enjoyed this season without her. I do not miss her at all. And like,
but what is she going to do?
I think honestly, it's very clear that she was bringing that franchise down with her like manipulations that were becoming like very transparent and like lame. So I bet she's probably freaking the fuck out right now because Bravo honestly could just cancel Vanderpump Rules altogether. I hope that they don't.
Tell me why. Tell me why you hope they don't.
Selfishly, I would just love a season. Like even if it's one more season, I would love a season without Stassi just for the purposes of like rubbing salt in her wounds. Like it's just truly like a cruel wish. But I also think like I was very compelled by Charlie. I was really compelled by Danica. I love to watch Sheena. I'm open for like a rebrand of the show. I wouldn't miss Brittany and Jax. Like, and I think that it could be done. It would take a lot of work and a lot of like great producing, but I think the producers and editors of that show are very geniuses in their own right. And I think like the network probably, if I had to guess, it seemed like the network was what was getting in the way of the show being great by trying to like declare certain people like the heroes of the show or like look favorably upon this person, give this person a good edit. Like I feel like if you put it back in the hands of the producers and editors, you could come out with something really amazing.
Do you think they will? I mean, here, the bottom line, when it comes to Jax, he said his own racist things. Like he had made some comments about, I don't watch 90 Day Fiance, but he made some comments about, there's this woman, Ashley, who is engaged. He made comments about this woman, Ashley, on 90 Day Fiance, about her fiance who was black. And he was making comments about his physical appearance. He said something extremely derogatory, which I'm not repeating on here, but he's said and done racist things. In fact, Faith herself is calling for his firing. So he's said and done racist and homophobic things. In what world is there a Vanderpump Rules without Kristen, but Jax is there? It wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I think you get rid of all of those people. Also, it's like,
who are all those people?
I mean, I think you get rid of Jax, Brittany, Kristen, and Stassi.
Okay.
You could keep everyone else. Barring like no more like like racist things, actions come to light.
Can maybe like do a light Twitter search to like see what's out there.
Yeah, I think Lala. I mean, if you now get rid of Stassi, Kristen, Jax, and Brittany, I don't know where Lala fits into the mix organically with any of them, because it seemed like she was
her friendship with James. They could
friendship with James, but I don't know if that really is like a true friendship, or if it's just like they've called like peace with each other, but are not really in each other's lives. And also I'm kind of just like, Lala's annoying. Like, I don't like whatever version of Lala we're seeing now. I think her head's up her own ass.
It sucks because I think in our very first chat, I was telling you how I did a rewatch of like season like 4, 5, and I was in love with Lala.
Yeah, she was amazing.
The best. And just, I mean, is this just like a true examination of what happens like when you become famous and get a lot of money?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I think so. And I think it's like an examination of just like a Hollywood machine in some ways. Like, she completely abandoned all her own values and what she stood for in service of becoming friends with truly the most garbage people in like the history of reality television. Like, you stand for nothing then at the end of the day. And like now are more concerned with your own image or whatever, and like not even willing to really have like an honest examination of self in the process. It's like, yeah, you can go to AA and get sober, but like you're still being like shitty to your friends and to other people. And like, you're not really honoring that like in an authentic way. So I could lose Lala and I would be fine to lose her at this point. Keep James and Raquel.
Yes.
Keep the Toms and Ariana and Katie. Fill it up with new cast members. I would bring Billy Lee back and like hire some black people and like people of color, or like show those, because those people, there are black people that work in those restaurants.
Here's my thing with Billy Lee. She was horrible. She was just merely a fame hungry chase. She's just another version of Stassi chasing she was not authentic. I was not into Billy Lee.
But like, we love to see it, right? Like, I'm down. Like, I would rather see her being like going through her own reckoning that she's kind of propelling, rather than seeing a narrative of her of being like, because I feel like she eventually it was like, oh my God, who's this like angry trans woman? Like, she got kind of othered. So if she's gonna reveal herself to be just as garbage as the other people of Vanderpump Rules, I'm down to see that.
I know. I think maybe in my mind, I'm like, I'd like a positive, some positive representation of a trans woman or man.
I mean, I don't think Vanderpump Rules is going to be the place where you go to get that, unfortunately.
Okay, so no matter what, I'm looking at trash.
A positive representation of anyone is what is really, and that's also where that's also where this kind of contradiction or problem comes into, like, what are we asking of Vanderpump Rules really? Like, what are we, like, they are not the ones, and this show is not the one for that. Obviously, it should not be promoting like racism by any means or condoning racism. But like, if you're looking to Vanderpump Rules for positive representation of any sort of minority or marginalized community, like, you are in the wrong place.
Lara, thank you so much. I mean, I just needed to walk a mile in your shoes and just hear what your thoughts were.
It's an evolving conversation. I think there's like new thoughts, feelings, emotions, perspectives each day. And that's like what is so interesting about this space and this show and these people. But also, like, let's keep it in perspective that mostly for like listeners and stuff, like, this is a distraction at the end of the day from like the real problems in the world. But that's why we love it.
One of my favorite things you said, you were like, okay, we took Stassi down, but like, we didn't end racism.
Like, no, racism is by no means solved. Like, and also this is a mere like chip away in the glass, and TBD if it really is or not, because I don't think if it had impacted her followers or created like a mass exodus from like her following, then maybe it would have been like really there's some sort of lasting impact. But I think that it's more just entertainment and like more of a distraction. But both things can exist in the same field. I just think it's like, you have to honor the fact that it's like, this is a entertainment and like not real life. And in real life, there's still a lot of fucking work to do.
All we're doing is just watching how Bravo is handling their house.
Yeah.
But there's all these other houses that we got to watch.
Yeah. And Bravo's not the end all be all. Like, it's good to demand that they do better, but at the end of the day, they are an entertainment entity. But thank you so much for having me. I obviously love to talk about this shit and go on for hours. So I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Of course. Tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me online at Lara Marie on all social media, and you can listen to my podcast, Sexy Unique Podcast.
Tell me what you're recapping next.
So right now, Vanderpump Rules is coming to an end. I think we have like a couple more episodes of that. I'm recapping season 3 of Real Housewives of New Jersey with my guest host, Carrie O'Donnell, week to week. We have to figure out what to do next. I mean, the good news is there is no shortage of like psychotic people on reality TV shows, which is just like my bread and butter. So there will be something, but we've recapped so many shows, like Carrie and I specifically, as like little spin-off series on Sex Unique Podcast. We've done Lindsay Lohan's Beach Club. We did an amazing, like very under the radar, but I think important cultural moment show called High Society that you can watch on YouTube that we talked about, which you and I have talked about.
I keep lobbying for you to do Princesses Long Island.
I know that would be, we've talked about that, but we don't want to tread. I'm just like, I don't want to tread into any sort of like anti-Semitism waters with that, just because it is like mostly Jewish or not characters, but Jewish.
You're not looking to get fake canceled yourself.
I'm not looking to get fake canceled and like walk myself into. It's just like murky, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I need to watch that show because I actually only watched like the first couple episodes.
Oh, you gotta.
And so I think even just as watching it.
What are the other? I know you did NYC Prep, right? Did you do that yet?
I didn't do NYC Prep.
Oh.
We did Gallery Girls, which is another. I do love a one season. I think there's something very special about one season wonder reality series.
There's another show on MTV that was 1 or 2 seasons called Rich Girls, I think.
Oh yeah, Rich Girls with Ally Hilfiger.
Yes. So one of the stars of that show, I mean, this was on like well over 10 years ago. One of the girls, Jamie Gleischer, I didn't even know she was a reality star. I knew her because she was obsessed with this Soul Cycle instructor who I was also obsessed with. And so we thought she was strange. like entirely independent of like a light Google search of like, oh shit, there's like actually some interesting shit here. Like one day my friend like was like, oh, like do you know that Jamie Gleischer was on a reality show? So just something for you to peruse.
No, I love Rich Girls. Yeah, that was like that was a very formative. I love any sort of just like blindly privileged women on television have been like a formative thing. So I love it.
I love it. Guys, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy this. You can follow me, JessXNYC. Follow the show account, Hot Takes Deep Dives. Would love a review on iTunes if you're feeling fancy. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.